What is going on, everybody? Xery back here for Xery'sMG Gaming with another Dragon Champions video. What I'm going to discuss today, everybody, and it's going to be a longer video, is the tier ranking that I personally made. So rip it up in the comments below if you want, but I hear it asked for a lot in the global chat, tier listings, and everyone needs to remember tier listings are not the end-all be-all. They can be subjective based on who you have and the team comps around it. I took many things into consideration, including where I think this character projects to be in the future, their current kit, their faction, things of that nature. So without further ado, let's get going. Alright, everybody, what I did is I broke them down into some categories here. We have the legendary category, which is just, you need this character, you need them, they are amazing. Rare is just a notch below. Very, very good character, just possibly missing something to take them to the next notch. Uncommon is just below rare. You won't regret investing gear into them, but they can be replaced possibly, or they need multiple things to make them work correctly. Common, starter characters, people that lower down your list that you won't regret putting gear on, but they're not the best, and then obviously just trash. So what we're going to go is we're going to do our first character, and we're going to move. Our first character on the list is Tromgar. Tromgar is a tank for the orc faction. The good things I like about Tromgar are daze. He can daze on his basic. His taunt brings up a counter attack. So with the daze on the basic and his constantly countering, and when it's maxed out to level 6, you can taunt right away. Otherwise, you gotta wait to kind of taunt for him. He can be used outside of the orc faction. He can be put in pretty much any team that you need a tank, and he can self-heal, which is huge. The bad about him is when you first get him, you can't taunt, like I said, on his first move. You have to wait, so you need that kind of like faux second tank. That's why he plays really well with a Rantha, who can call on the bear, so you can buy that time before he can get his taunt up. So let's see where I put Tromgar. So Tromgar for me falls into the rare category. If he could taunt right away on his first move, he'd be almost a legendary for me. But right now he falls right into the rare category. Next on the list is Corkrum. Corkrum is a orc mage. The things I like about him is that he applies burn on his basic. He can apply stun on his AoE, and his spectral beast ability can do massive damage once you get the burn and the stun onto the character. The bad about Corkrum is that he's very dependent on his potency to land the debuffs to increase that damage, and he's not really viable outside of an orc faction. You can use him, especially in the lower beginning game, but as you advance, you're really only going to see him sign in the orc faction. So let's see where Corkrum ranks. So for me, Corkrum comes into the common section. He's a mage, he does some really good things, but he is so dependent on his potency, and he really doesn't have a lot of potency. So it really stifles his viability within the game. Next on our list is Rantha. Rantha is a warrior from the orc faction. What I really like about Rantha is that she summons the off-tank. Battle Poo doesn't have a lot of health, which is part of the bad, but it can really save you in battles. Also, she has a great leadership for the Orc clan where they regenerate health, so the survivability rate really increases. And also, if Battle Poo is there, she calls in an assist with her basic. She does have an AoE ability, doesn't do massive damage, but the thing that I really like about that AoE ability is it shoots up to 8 arrows. And if you only have one person on the battlefield, they receive all 8 of those arrows, so they can do massive damage to help you finish off, say, a healer or something like that. So the bad thing I like about her is her viability, again, is only really limited to the orc faction. Battle Poo doesn't have a lot of health, and her AoE damage leaves something to be desired if the team is at full capacity. So let's see where I rank Rantha. So for me, Rantha falls into the uncommon category. She is an uncommon for the reason of you can use her in other teams if you want that full tank. Her leadership puts her above the common class, and she just offers a little bit more viability than a common character. Okay, next up on the list we have Mortha. She is the healer for the Orc faction, and her healing is a chain heal, much like that of the Shaman in the World of Warcraft. The good things about Mortha is that she does pretty good damage for a healer. She can restore shield on a random ally using her ability, and she has a passive that increases her magical damage, which also would increase her healing. The bad is, again, her viability is extremely limited. There is much better plug-and-play heroes out there other than Mortha, and her heal is a chain heal, so it decreases value every time it hits somebody, so it doesn't have that mass team AoE type heal that you want out of a healer. So let's see where I rank Mortha. So for me, Mortha is a common character. Outside of the Orc faction, she's nothing more than an average healer that can help you in the beginning to early mid-game. After that, you're going to easily replace her. Staying on the Orc kick, we have Mar. Mar is the DPS character for the Orc faction. The good about him is he can do sizable damage, and he does have an AoE ability. The bad thing about him is that viability is really, again, limited to the Orc faction. He's not a good plug-and-play character, at least mid to end game, and he's very reliant on crit chance, so you really got to stack that up on him. And what else I don't like at all is that you need to waste a turn to max out his damage with his rage ability. And honestly, his passive is just downright awful, where the less health he has, the more damage he does. So that kind of stinks when you're using Mortha, because Mortha, you can't control where the second and third heals go. So you can easily heal him up, mitigating his damage. Don't like that ability at all. So let's see where I have Mar. For me, everybody, Mar, again, is a common character. He doesn't bring anything to the game that I feel is meaningful outside of the Orc faction. Again, a very good beginning to early mid-game character. Next up on the list is Cruel. And now I should say this, I didn't say this in the beginning, and I apologize for that. This list is only for characters who are currently out, so Soleus is not going to be listed on this, and some of the other characters that you can't currently farm are not on here. You have to be able to farm them from somewhere in the game to be on this list. So, Cruel. Absolutely in love with this character. She is a great plug-and-play character. She can fit into any team, no matter what you're running. Her reflection ability is downright cool, where you copy somebody and she does great damage. The bad is she's very hard to unlock, and she may not be at her full potential yet. She's a human, so I really want to play with her when Soleus comes out. So let's see where I got Cruel. Cruel for me is a rare character. Her plug-and-play viability is absolutely amazing. She does great things. So that's where we have her. Next up on the list we have Hera. Hera is a DPS character who hails from the Pride faction. She does have a very, very good leadership ability for the Pride. She has a very good kit balance. Her basic stacks what you need for your second move, where you can unleash all this damage. Oasis Shadows she has, which is her third ability that can turn the tide of the battle. That is essentially where you put everybody underneath invisibility, except for one character. So again, it's kind of like a faux second tank, and it also gives that person an increased dodge chance. And her relationship with the Pride tanks, like a Salvador, just with what she can do, she gives them a pre-taunt, and then she can stealth everybody and put them with a faux taunt when that's on cooldown. The bad is, outside of the Pride faction, it's really hard to find a place for her in a team. So let's see where I have Hera. Hera for me is an uncommon character. If she could work a little bit better inside of other teams, she would be a rare character. But for right now, I enjoy playing with her. She's a really good character, but she is part of the uncommon class. Alright, next up on our list we have Freezard. He is a human mage. The best $1.99 you're going to spend in this game, hands down. You can get him early. He will help you carry you in the early game. He cheats death, so that means once he gets hit and he's about to die, he will not die, and he'll come back with some shield, so you have a chance to heal him up. That only works once. He has 2 very good AoE abilities, and also has synergy with Snorri. Snorri is one of my favorite characters, so he does play off them very well. The bad news is you get this character for $1.99, but he's extremely hard to continue to level up. And he's also a glass cannon. He doesn't have a lot of health. But to maximize potential, you really can't put a lot of health primaries on him. You want critical chance, critical damage. So let's see where I have Freezard. Freezard is an uncommon character for the reasons I mentioned above. If you could farm him right away and you bought that $1.99 pack, he would be so much better. But now I'm starting to gear up characters that are just replacing him because I can't farm him on a regular basis, which makes him an uncommon. Next up on the list we have Darian. Darian is a human tank. The good about him is he can taunt on his first move. He has an AoE ability which you don't see often on tanks, and he's the first generic leadership you're going to unlock, which will help you early game. The bad is that he's a basic tank. He's nothing special. If you played any hero collector before, you have that one tank you start with that kind of carries your team, and that's Darian. Nothing really special about him, and he's bad damage. Even for a tank, his AoE does not do a lot of damage. It's kind of frustrating. So I have Darian as a common character. He's definitely not trash. You won't regret putting gear on him, but he is going to be replaced in the tank category quicker than you would like to see. Next up on the list we have Eric Shieldbreaker. He is a human DPS character. He is also a warrior. What I like about him is that he was a pleasant surprise to me. He's easy to farm. He can definitely be one of those characters that carries you from the begin game through the mid game. He deals more damage to enemies that have shields, which is big because as you start going through the campaign, they start getting shields. He hits like an absolute truck, and he can apply buff immunity to his allies. The bad thing about Eric the Shieldbreaker is he's topped out at the mid game right now. You start taking him past the mid game, especially towards the end of the mid game, you're going to replace him. He has low health and low speed. So I have Eric the Shieldbreaker as an uncommon character. Next up I have Eric the Shieldbreaker there, my apologies. This is not Eric the Shieldbreaker, this is Salvador. Salvador is a tank's tank. Love this guy. Being a tank in the World of Warcraft, I was a warrior. I just love this guy. I love his mechanics. He does damage while taunting, which is huge, so you don't just waste a turn throwing up a taunt. You do some damage and you taunt. His Steel Shell ability is amazing. When you put that on him, his damage he receives literally almost goes down to nothing. He has the pre-taunt with the Hera lead. He's a plug-and-play main or an off-tank. Just a good character. The bad is, again, he's a tank. His damage really isn't that great, and he's only a tank. He's not. You can't put him as anything other than a main or a off tank. You're not going to put him in there to try to pick up some damage and things like that. Like a Tromgar, he does some really good damage. So you could kind of throw him in there and not regret putting in a DPS. Here with Salvador, you cannot. So I have Salvador ranked as a rare character. Just hands down the best pure tank in the game. You won't regret him at all. Next up we have Snorri. Snorri is a human warrior DPS character. He does massive damage. He applies bleed on his AoE. He has synergy with Freezard, and he's a great plug-and-play character. Anytime you need a DPS, you can bring in Snorri and he'll perform. Whether it's on a human clan or faction or human team or a demon team. The bad news is he's a glass cannon, and he does waste a turn because you have to apply his berserker stance to maximize his full potential. I have Snorri as a rare character. This guy is awesome. You will not regret him, and if you fought him, you understand why he's a rare. Next up, we have Kinley. Kinley is a Panda tank. What I like about Kinley is that he can taunt with his first move. when he throws up his taunt, he also gives himself increased dodge chance. He has 2 different attacks, and he has a 2-turn taunt. Just a great all-around character. If you unlock Patriarch Chi, he is vital to that team. All around a great character. What I don't like about him, he's only good as a second tank unless he's with Patriarch Chi. His leadership is extremely subpar, and he has very, very low base speed, which is really good for a tank, but it's also not good for a tank when you got to get that taunt up. So you don't want him super blazing speed, but you don't want him so slow that he's the last guy to go on your team, which is where Kinley's at. So for Kinley, I put him in the rare category because what he brings to the team is just absolutely phenomenal. You know, with that early taunt, with Patriarch Chi, giving himself dodge chance, just an all-around really good character. Next up on the list, we got Ilaria. She is an elf healer. What she does really good is that she has a team-wide heal. Her Star Orb ability heals the lowest health, not enemy, ally, and she has good starting game healer. You get her early, she'll help you out. The bad is that the elves are awful. She's outpaced by other heroes very quickly. She'll take you maybe to the end of the begin game, and she's extremely squishy. I have Ilaria as a common healer. Next up, we have Old Lore. Old Lore is a Goblin DPS character. I am glad I did not spend the $1.99 on this character. The only real good thing about him is that he can triple hit on his second ability. The bad is he must have preparation to really do any damage, and he has synergy with elves. He's just not a really good character. So I have Old Lore as my first trash character. Really just avoid this guy. There are better goblins out there that you can use to fulfill your goblin need in events and things like that. Just stay clear of him. Next up, we have Kagi. Kagi is a mage, bird mage. He does have a haste increase, and he does have an AoD ability, and that's about the only thing that's good with this guy. You get him early on, and I'm regretting every piece of gear I put on him. His damage isn't really good. His haste is random, so you can't even select who you want it to be on, so it can go on your tank, and you lose your taunt. He has synergy with Bori, who's not even in the game, and there are just much better options in mages and DPS characters. So I have Kagi as a trash character. Next up on the list, we have Master Duo. He is a Panda DPS character. What he does good is he heals himself and others if you max out his ability enough. He is immune to blind, which is awesome, and he is very good with pandas. The bad is his damage really needs to have his martial knowledge active for it to be any good, and he gets outpaced by other DPSs very quickly in this game. I have Master Duo as a common character. Next up, we have Robin Bad, and I regret this guy terribly. I put gear on him, I leveled him thinking he would help me out, and the only thing he really does good is crit damage buff to the team. What he does bad is pretty much everything else. His AoE is awful, his damage is awful. Just stay clear of this guy, and as you can probably tell, I have Robin Bad as a trash character. Next up, we have Sergeant Pigwald. I am currently using him for the Goblin requirement. What he does good is he has an AoE that will go after the 2 lowest health enemies, so he bypasses his taunt. His passive is very good for what he does. He has good base speed, and he can be a plug-and-play character. You can use him as a DPS in different battles, including, or especially, if they have 2 tanks, so you can bypass that tank to go after the lowest health. The only bad thing about him, really, is that he must use his charge first, essentially wasting a team. So I have Sergeant Pigwald as an uncommon character. Next up, we have Adam. He is a Goblin tank that we all get in the beginning of the game. He has an AoE on his basic, and he can shield himself. And he sometimes can be annoying if you put a counter on him. But other than that, he's not that good. His damage is really awful. His taunt never procs. And you have to sink gear into him because you get him so early. And he has low health for a tank. So that gives Adam the trash label. Next up, we have Foe, who is a DPS Panda. What she does really good is that she can give a dodge buff to the entire team, which is extremely annoying. She has a pretty decent AoE, and she has a very good passive for increase of damage. The bad is she doesn't hit all that hard until you get that passive up there, I haven't found really any use for her outside of the Panda team because she gets overshadowed by DPSs very quickly. So that puts Foe as a common character. Next up we have Varian the Trickster. He is a Pride DPS. What he does good is he applies poison, and his kit plays very well off every move. His kit is my favorite part about this character. The bad is, he doesn't hit hard, and he has almost zero potency, so his poisons, which he needs to do the massive amount of damage, never sticks. So Varian the Trickster is a trash character. Next up we have Sharp. We all got Sharp early in the game. What's good about Sharp is he has a good passive for his skill set. He attacks 3 times with his second ability, Wambo Combo, and he can give all allies critical chance. Again, sorry about that. Again, the bad is that pretty much everything else. He does extremely poor damage, and he's easily replaceable. So if you probably didn't guess, that puts Sharp as a trash character. Next up here we have Little Baddie. Little Baddie is a human tank, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this character now that I have her unlocked. She can inflict blind, she has a cheat death for a tank that's huge, she attacks while putting her taunt up, and she does damage to a random enemy, which is about a 30% chance, but it's always nice to just get a little extra damage. The bad is that she has very high speed for a tank, and she is extremely hard to farm. I put Little Baddie at an uncommon. I believe she's going to be the human tank you want in a Soleus team, so that's why she is uncommon. Next up we have Senjil. Senjil is an elf healer, the second elf healer. The good thing about him is that he has multiple regeneration heals, and he has a good passive forward healer. The bad is he needs to be a second healer. He is not a good first healer. His overtime heals can take too long to actually heal, and he basically has no damage whatsoever. For me, that puts Senjil as a trash character. Next up, we have Puncherface. I like this character quite a bit. Puncherface has one of the coolest abilities I've seen. He is a demon DPS. He applies taunt to all enemies. So if they're running double tank teams, you can throw up taunt, and you can go after whoever you want. He has an unreal passive. Really check it out. It is amazing. He can also give haste to the team, and he is above average in the damage category. The bad is that demons really aren't the best in the game, so I don't really see a lot of synergy with them. And he's a situational character. Since his damage really isn't all that good, you're not going to use him on a consistent basis. You're really going to take him in when you're facing that double taunt team, which can really hurt. So for those reasons, I have Puncherface as an uncommon character. Next up on the list, we have Major Shot. Major Shot is a DPS Goblin, and I made the mistake of leveling old lore until I got Major Shot, and I have not regretted him. He has a Goblin leadership, which right now is the only one in the game. He can grant a free turn to an ally, which is huge. He inflicts blind. He has an AoE on his basic, and he does really solid damage. The bad is that Goblins really aren't very good at this point in the game. He's a harder farm, and they're better characters that you can get out of the arena shop than Major Shot. So for those reasons, I put Major Shot in the uncommon class. Next up, we got Kelrin. Kelrin is an elf tank. The good is that he can taunt right away, and it lasts for 2 turns. And he also can do an armor decrease on his basic. Other than that, there's really nothing special here. He's extremely overshadowed by other tanks. You get him early, and you're honestly probably going to regret putting ability scrolls on him or any gear. So for that reason, I put Kelrin in the trash category. Next up on the list, we have Kyra. Kyra is a DPS demon, and she is an amazing character. If you fought her in arena, you know what I'm talking about. She has above average damage. She has an AoE ability, and her ability, Go Dark, oh my goodness, absolutely love it. Puts up counter, and then puts everybody else in stealth. So you can put your counter on your tank, and you can continue to do damage while they attack him or her. She can be farmed early on. She's a great plug-and-play character. The bad is that the demon class is just awful. there's only really 30% chance to apply daze at the max level, and you must level up to reach her maximum potential, especially with ability scrolls. If you're going to sink ability scrolls in her, you're not going to regret it. But if you don't have them to sink in, she's going to seem like an average character. But at end game, she is a rare character. She can turn the tide of a arena match. I have fought people with 4,000 less power than me, and they have her, and I don't, and they beat me. Next up, we have Venomate. Venomate is a DPS demon. He inflicts poison. He has a good crit damage increase. He has AoE damage with a chance to poison on it, which is big, and he has really good synergy with Kyra, and he has good starting speed for a character. The bad is that he has very low potency, so getting those poisons to stick is always sometimes tricky, and he really needs Kyra to be truly effective. So for those reasons, I have Venomate as an uncommon. Next up, we have Amara, who is a DPS Goblin. She can apply the burn effect. She has damage. She does extra damage to poisoned or burning enemies, so she can pair well. There's some things you can do with her. And her AoE damage applies 100% burning at max level, so that is awesome. The bad is that she's extremely hard to unlock, and she has synergy with Thanisa, who's not even in the game yet. But she can be a good plug-and-play character. So for those reasons, I have to put her at uncommon. Next up, we got Patriarch Chi, and he is just amazing. Amazing leadership. I think it's probably the best in the game. The combo with Kin Lee is just unbelievable. He can remove debuffs, he applies shields, he increases armor. He is a plug-and-play dream. The only bad part about him is that he's extremely difficult to unlock. So for that, I put Patriarch Chi as our first legendary character. There is not a team this guy cannot go in, and having the, in my opinion, best leadership in the game puts him at an early game legendary. Next up is Mega Wheel. Mega Wheel is a goblin tank. He inflicts pain, which increases damage, which is awesome. And he can deal insane damage once he stacks that pain on somebody. The bad is he's not a very good tank. He's extremely basic. He's really, really hard to unlock, and very, very pain dependent. If you do not have a lot of pain on somebody, it's like taking a BB gun to a tank. He's not doing a lot of damage. So for that reason, I put Mega Wheel at common. Next up, we have Xantera. Xantera is one of, if not the best healer in the game. Her heals, she heals the lowest health ally on her basic. She has an AoE damage with a built-in heal in it. She can reduce cooldowns for an ally. The bad news is that she just doesn't do a whole heck of a lot of damage, and she needs another healer in the party. And the reason I say that is you can get away early arena, mid-game with just her, but as you get higher up and you start pumping out massive, massive damage, you're going to have to sacrifice your health to heal everybody, and then she can be easily taken out. So that's why you need that second healer. So for those reasons, I put her, Xantera, as an uncommon character. Next up on the list, we have Reval. The good things about Reval is that he looks badass. I love his character design. I love the polearm that he uses. I just think all around, being a white tiger, I think that's awesome. But besides the point, he can inflict bleeding, and he has a massive AoE damage dealer. The bad news is his leadership is awful. I don't even know why it's there. And he's dependent on another ally with bleed mechanics. He does not apply bleed on a regular basis, so you really need somebody like Snorri to go along with him, or somebody who can apply that bleed. So for those reasons, I put Reval as an uncommon character. Next up on the list is Shaolin, aka Kung Fu Panda. Alright? The good about him is that he can attack. He has multiple attacks that attack 3 times, then he has one that attacks 7 times. His basic restores his health, and he has a very high base speed. The bad is he has no AoE. He's very Panda team dependent, and he's accuracy dependent. You got to have accuracy on this because this guy can miss on his 7 attacks quite frequently, and it's very frustrating. So for those reasons, I put Kung Fu Panda, Shaolin, as a common character. Next up on the list, we have Nightl. Nightl is an awesome character. She is a DPS elf character. She can remove buffs. She increases buffs from other allies, or increased damage buff for all other allies. She has a 2-turn ability block, which can really shut you down. And she can go through shields, and she does some massive damage. The bad news is, she doesn't have a good leadership at all, and she really needs Soleus to unlock her full potential. She's a very good character, but I think with Soleus, she's going to be unreal. But for now, I have to put Nightl at a rare. Next up, we have Hard Orc. Hard Orc is game-changing for the Orc faction. He is a faction-changing character. He removes debuffs for up to 4 allies. He can apply massive buffs to the team. He has an ability block. He does massive damage, and his bleed effect on his basic. So you put him with like a Revol or a Snorri. Just unreal. The only bad thing about this character is that he is so hard to unlock. You can only get him out of the star shop, which is you have to have a 7-star character, or you have to have a maxed out character on stars, and then you have to get their shards and turn them into star currency. But that does not stop me from putting him as a legendary. Anybody who changes a faction as much as Hard Orc does, and he can be a plug-and-play character, needs and deserves to be a legendary. Alright guys, if you stuck around to the end of the video, there is one other character that you can unlock, and it is the demon Shadar. Shadar can only be farmed from the Dragon Raid hardest tier. I have not used him. I've only fought him a handful of times in early battles, so I did not feel right putting him into my list. So, there's my list. There are my tiers. Hopefully everybody liked it. If you stuck around this long, thank you very much. Leave me a like, a subscribe. Greatly appreciated. Let me know in the comments what I got right and what I got wrong. Everybody have a great day. Be safe. Take care. I'm out.